Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alton West. Today I will have a guest on from LaGrange, the Homeownership Director, Elia Malters. Welcome, Elia, to the show.
Thank you, Alton.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you. There's some things that's going on with Dash that I think a lot of the viewing audience probably could benefit from, and you're going to talk about some of those things. But before we jump into that, just tell us a little bit about your role as a Homeownership Director, Elia.
Okay. Well, the role as a homeownership director is pretty much to do the programs, the marketing and programs that we have at Dash. I'm also a housing counselor, so I do that, that also. But also to make sure that we're meeting all the guidelines and the program guidelines that we're supposed to be doing to better serve the clients. So that's our goal.
Okay, all right. And when you're talking about home ownership counseling, I think this is a great time for individuals to look at the possibility of purchasing a home or becoming a homeowner, because interest rates are very, very low. I'm sure you'll talk about, and there are a number of homes out on the market that could meet individual needs. But let's just talk a little bit about, because you all were recently approved as a HUD approved housing counseling agency.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that and what that means to the citizens of LaGrange and surrounding area.
It is very important, Alton, because we all hear about predatory lending. We hear about the fraud going on, and of course we hear it a lot from people that say, people when they're in their worst situations, that's where they're going to get help wherever they can. And so we have counseling agencies or people that say, I'm going to do credit repair, or I'm going to help you to get where you need to be. And we hear that all the time. We get people that come in and tell us, I've been doing this for a year, we've done nothing, and they really don't even know where they're at. And so it's very important for us to get out to them how to choose, because they don't even know what questions to ask. So what questions do you ask as far as when you're going to a counseling agency? Getting HUD approval is a very important thing, and as you know, with our merge that we did before, and of course we've been doing those things, but you do have to put in to get it approved again. So so becoming that HUD approved agency, it means that you have you're going to have you have to have that track record already as running that business, that successful business, but also that you're going to follow industry standards. So you're following different standards also.
Okay, so it's basically, I guess, kind of like if you would equate that to the police department as being accredited, now that your agency is accredited to offer these type services, I guess.
It is, and you not only does it give you, the industry is trying just education for your counselors, so not only is the company accredited, but you have to be accredited. And you have to be
counselor themselves. Is what
and you have to continue that education, as far as, and so it's giving you, it covers all the areas in the training, in the reporting, and so those industry, in your ethics, in your code of ethics, is really important. And so when you have somebody that has that, that you're getting that quality service. So it's important for them to know that so they can ask those questions. And
you're talking about asking the questions because there's a commercial said the questions are the answers. If you don't know the questions to ask, you necessarily don't get the answers that you necessarily need to make a good decision. Let's just talk a little bit about, now, when someone first comes into your office, or let me ask this question. On Fridays, we have in the paper, sometimes we see the misfortunate foreclosures.
Yes.
If someone was, about to be foreclosed on or about to get in trouble, could they come to your organization and get help?
Yes, well, they'll come in and we do an assessment. What's what we do. And also for anybody else, they'll come into an orientation, they'll fill out that application. And we have to do the assessment because we have to know where they're at or what we're doing. So that assessment is very, very important in all of everything that we do and stuff. And then then we go from there. But it's very important if you go to somebody that they have enough of knowledge to do that assessment of where you're at and what your situation is and what those options are. Options may be that they are just ready to transition out. But somebody's got to be there to help them transition out. It's very important to do that, to help somebody to keep whatever they have and to transition out to any other housing, rental housing or whatever. But just the fact that people don't think of that. But that is part of the transition. That's part of that program is or maybe it may be better for a person to transition out.
Okay, and I know that's a hard, maybe a hard
Exactly.
choice for an individual
Yes,
to make,
yes.
especially when they've been in that home for a number of years. But
it is.
income has to meet, I guess, your outflow.
Right.
And I think in the assessment,
is.
you guys kind of help them understand it because you work helping with
Yes,
budgets and things.
yes, because you may be, even though, and some people need to understand that even a lender, in order to help you and do a prepayment plan or anything that they're going to do in all the options they have, there has to be funds. So that, that they can't just do it magically. There's got to be funds to work with. So if there's no funds to work with, they might do the next option and the next option
Right.
until but it's still kind of having a little bit more control over your own life by doing those things instead of just letting it go.
Okay, all right. Now let me ask you. Now, I asked you a question a moment ago about someone coming in. Is there a fee that is charged to that client, or how is that
Okay.
work?
Well, of course, we have certain things that we don't charge for, and that's one of them. We don't charge because we're legally cannot. So we do have counseling fees, and in the past, I know you remember, we used to have like a $75 charge. We now charge using a fee scale and waiver policy, what we have, and we use the HUD income limits to do that. So that our fees structures are approved by HUD, and we use the income limits, so you have your 30, 50, 60, wherever, and they fall in. Also, it's household income. So it's also the amount of people in the house. And so to answer your question, the people we do have set up where we don't charge. So if we have people that come in and are under 30% of that AMI, we will not charge them. And of course, depends on where they're at. They might, usually they're not pre-purchase clients. They might just be credit rebuilding. And that's why we don't use that word repair, because we talk about that it is a slow process.
Right.
And but we don't charge for that. But now if we get clients that are 30% and they have a debt to income ratio of more than 43%, then we don't charge them. We don't charge for foreclosure clients, and we don't charge for our homeless services.
Okay.
So we do have some of the things that we just automatically do.
Okay. So and basically, based on the number of individuals in the household and the income, determines the fee that they will pay.
Yes.
Or no fee at all.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Now if someone was interested in contacting you all, you give them a number that they can contact you.
We're
all.
actually having an orientation December 3rd.
Okay.
And that's the first step to coming to our program. So December 3rd, we're having with what we call it, and that's exactly what it is, an orientation. And that's December 3rd. It's in the evening. It's only 1 hour, because that's basically what it is, an orientation, a motivational. They do their application. They do have to pay their credit report fee, because I have to use that for the assessment. And then we'll actually set them an appointment that night. So that number is 706-298-0852.
Okay. All right. And that's to get into the orientation, which will be taking place on December 3rd.
Oh, you know what? I get it's 0582.
0582. All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
So 0582.
All right. 298-0582.
Yes.
Okay.
706-298-0582. And that's the first step. Then they come to the assessment, and that's where they really, I always tell them, you're going to know exactly where you're at or what you have to do and what your plan is and stuff.
Now, let me ask you, mentioned a moment ago, and I know a lot of people, they'll tell you kind of, up front, well, my credit is not the very best.
Right.
And some of them may have seen their credit, some of them may have not seen their credit in some time.
Right.
And you talked about having to pay for the credit report.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about credit. And I want to ask the question, first of all.
Okay.
Sometimes we drive around the cities or in the county, we
Right.
see the little sign, we fix credits.
Right.
And there's an 800 number or some other type number there. Is that
Right.
legal or legitimate?
Well, I don't know who they are, so I don't know, but I do know that you cannot, your credit health is not, as they say, it's kind of like it's an event. It's not a sprint. So there is no way to do it. There is no way to do it quickly. It's almost like you have to be, and we also now, we look at that. Do you own? Are you ready to own? And that's what the assessment is for. Are you ready to own this is what I'm ready to do, and I'm ready to get it done and stuff, and it depends, everybody's different. And we do give them a time rating and stuff. It's not a magic number. But it is something that if you're willing to do that it can happen for you. And stuff, because I know that we had October of this year, we had this report come out from FICO, which FICO, as you know, is a company that invented the FICO score, which is, and you know that's from 300 to 850. So, but they did this study of what they call high achievers, people with high credit scores over 785. And what are their habits? And you know, we've always talked about it's your habits. And this, so I really love this report because it says what are the habits of these high achievers. And these high achievers, they looked at them regardless of background or life experience. Isn't that great? I thought that's wonderful that they looked at that. So these high achievers had three things. They kept low revolving balances as a relative to their available credit.
Okay.
They did not max out any credit cards, and they consistently made those payments on time. They might have only made the minimum, but they made them on time. But what really was so wonderful to me is the study showed that they averaged 7 credit cards, where they were opened or closed. 4 of the credit cards that had loan balances. I mean, some of them even had a collection. Maybe they may have been a little bit longer back. Some of them even had tax liens, but they were, you know, longer back. So that shows you that it's not a quick fix. Okay. But it gives people, you know, hope. Absolutely. That if they had all this stuff, I can do it. I can do it too.
So these were people that had credit scores over 785. They were high achievers or more. Right. But yet and still they had some bumps in the road along the way is what you're telling us. But they worked on it over a consistent course of time to get them where they needed to be.
Yes, and we've always said it's habits. You have to change, and you can do those 3 things, and that's what we help people do, because it is, like you said, people wanted things now, but I mean, it is, and the quicker you start, the better it's going to be.
Absolutely, get to your goal. Well, Elia, you know, our time gets by so quick. We could talk forever. Absolutely. Well, definitely, we want to make sure that you mention again the December the 3rd orientation.
It's December the 3rd, 5:45 to 6, and it is an hour. Okay. And they need to call 706-298-0582.
All right. Well, Elia, thank you very much for coming on and sharing this information. All right. We'll sit down again, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back from City Week in just a moment. Welcome back, City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Now I have on the Executive Director for CASA for LaGrange. I have on Ms. June Nelson. Welcome to the show, Ms. Nelson.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you as well. Now, and I know that you and I have a long history together. I know your kids, and you were in the school system. Now you're continue to do work in our community that is so very vital. Talk a little bit about the CASA and you being the Executive Director there for us, Ms. Nelson.
Okay. CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates for Children in Foster Care that have been abused and neglected by no means of their own. I am their Executive Director, and I am responsible for the day-to-day operations. It's a nonprofit agency, so I do grant writing. We do training for volunteers. We also do a lot of community outreach where we go into the community to tell them about CASA so that we can hopefully get people to want to volunteer to be advocates for the children in foster care. We work with children from ages birth to 18 years of age, so we have a wide range of age group that we work with. And our agency serves Truth and Hurd County. Okay. We are also advocates for children in Hurd County. They're in foster care.
Okay, well, very good. And where are you all located?
We are located at 118 Ridley Avenue in the Juvenile Court building on the ground floor. Okay. So we're really accessible, plenty of parking.
Okay, so the parking deck there, the county, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And I know that you have a staff member there. I know Ms. Viney Shanks has been there for a number of years.
She's a volunteer coordinator.
Okay, and absolutely wonderful individual. I've known Viney for a long period of time too. And then you also have some other staff members there. Talk about their roles as well.
Okay, we also have Katrina Self, who's a volunteer coordinator, and Danielle Turner. Katrina and Viney are full-time volunteer coordinators, and Danielle is part-time. She works about 20 hours a week. And these 3 ladies are wonderful. They are responsible for supervising our volunteers. They also take some cases themselves, get involved with the children. They know all aspects of what's going on in the lives of the children that we're assigned to. We are assigned to the cases by Judge Michael Key, the juvenile court judge. He appoints CASA to various cases that come to court for deprivation. And these ladies also help with the training. They are good with keeping up with volunteer hours, making sure that volunteers stay involved with their children, and they do a lot of home visiting. They do a lot of leg work themselves.
Okay. And you use the term volunteer quite a bit here. Is there an opportunity for individuals that may be viewing this show to get involved and volunteer?
It sure is.
Okay.
National CASA has a campaign called I Am for the Child. And the premise behind this campaign is that we would like to have every child in foster care to have their own CASA volunteer. Someone to be their voice in court, someone to speak up for them. So we are looking for community citizens to step up and help us advocate for these children. And they can do that by volunteering for our agency. We have a training coming up on January the 14th from 5:30 to 8. We'll meet for 5 weeks every Monday and Thursday for 5 weeks. And during this time, we train volunteers into how to advocate for the children. You have to be 21 years of age.
Okay.
Complete a criminal background check, because that's for the safety of working with children.
Right. Okay.
Give us 4 references that can speak on their behalf.
Okay.
And then come to the trainings. They will do some court observations, and then at the end of the training, if all goes well, and it seems that they are very suited to be a volunteer for our agency, we will have them sworn in by Judge Key. After that, they are assigned a case. And we like to assign cases to volunteers according to their interest in the age group. Some volunteers would rather be an advocate for a baby or a young child, and other volunteers may want to be an advocate for a teenager. So during the training, all of that will be discussed and talked about. And then at the end of their training and their swearing in, we assign them to a case. And we walk through it with them.
Okay.
You know, it's a new experience, but it's a great experience, and it's a lifelong experience, because advocating for a child as their voice in court gives the child someone to step up and say what they want. You know, a lot of times now for the babies, they can't speak for themselves. But for some of the children, they have some idea of how they want their lives to be.
You know, it sounds so interesting. You almost sold me there for a moment. I'm gonna have to
Okay,
look
I'm
into
going to keep
you
on,
hold me
and
into
I'm going to reel you in.
Well, you know, it sounds so interesting to be able to be that voice for that child, and especially when they've been, I guess, neglected or whatever the case may be. And so once this person goes through the training, they will have someone to kind of, I guess, mentor them a little bit through the process.
Right, and that will be their volunteer coordinator.
Okay.
It is very important for children who have been taken away from their family to have someone to be there for them. They'll be in a foster home, and they'll be in a group home. That will be the place that they're living. But a CASA volunteer comes into their lives to help them through the situation of the court hearings, the court proceedings. They will, you know, keep them informed as to what's going on, how their parents are progressing with their case plan, and just offer support for them. Visit them. Our volunteers are asked to visit our children once a month. And so that's that person who's going to talk to them about what's really going on with their life.
You know, again, I mean, you're right. To have that voice to speak for you on your behalf is so important, and we hope that the viewing audience, if they haven't gotten involved, to ask those questions about how they can become involved. Hopefully, from our airing of this, we'll get more people to call and get more involved. Now, during this time, and I know we are getting ready. We just celebrated Thanksgiving, moving into the Christmas season. During this time of the year, is there anything that you all do special for the kids that you could, again, use volunteers for?
Yes, we like to do Christmas for our children as well. They have a lot of other community resources that provide Christmas for them, but we like to do it as well. Our board of directors will bring gifts for them at our next board of directors meeting in December. And we have a board member, Mr. Ricky Nasworthy, who is really like our CASA Santa Claus. He goes out in the community and he talks with community people and encourages them to give gifts to our children. And he has some wonderful sponsors that have really stepped up in the last 2 years to help us with Christmas for our children, such as Bond Trucking Company, Grace Baptist Church. Mr. Nasworth is a member of Rosemont Baptist Church. So they've all been very good donors for our children during this time. My sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, will be contributing this year to the Christmas for these children, as well as my neighborhood, Greenwich subdivision. They will be sponsoring some children this Christmas.
And approximately how many children do you all have in care, you think, at this time?
We have over 60-something children in care right now, and most of them will probably stay in care during the Christmas holidays. So, you know, if there's anybody out in the community that, you know, would like to donate to help these children have a wonderful Christmas, it would be wonderful.
Absolutely. And most of these kids are either from the Troup County and Heard County area that you all service, correct?
They are.
Okay. So if someone was interested in maybe making a monetary donation or either a gift, can they just bring it by you all's office there on Wrigley?
They sure can.
Okay.
They can bring it by our office. We're there on Mondays through Thursdays.
Okay.
And we would be glad to accept any donations. We know that this is a season of giving, so along with the donations, we would also like for our community citizens to think about giving the gift of time, which would be becoming a CASA volunteer.
Absolutely. That's a great gift to give, and that's one that continues to give, because I heard you saying that they would maybe go back and do a frequent visit to the child during the court intervention there. So once you assign a child, I guess you would stay with him or her until?
The volunteer would stay with the child until the case is closed.
Okay. Okay.
They would stay with the child until the case is closed.
Okay, well, very good. But again, we hope that the listening audience will come out and support. And by all means, I'm going to get an application myself.
Okay, I'm going to email it to you today.
Okay, well, very good. I mean, again, as most people may know, I'm an adoptive foster parent myself, and I feel strong about being that voice for children that may not can speak for themselves. So again, I'll get that and get it filled out too.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to maybe even ask around City Hall about some volunteers.
That would be great. And we do a lot of speaking engagements. So if there's any group or organization or church that would like to invite us to come and talk about CASA, we'll be willing to do that. We have brochures, we have handouts. We have all the information that anyone would need to find out about our agency. Okay,
well, very good. Well, I know that it's a very worthwhile cause in the community, and definitely we thank you for being there. And I know that the volunteers and all of them were fortunate to have you and the staff members there to kind of help guide them along as well. So, Ms. Nelson, I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing this information. I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas as well.
Same to you, and thank you for the invitation.
All right, well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for more City Week in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been from Dashville LaGrange, Elia Baltus, the Home Ownership Director, as she talked about the upcoming orientation that you can take advantage of. And also had on from CASA, the Executive Director, June Nelson, and she talked about how you can become involved by being a volunteer and be that voice for a child that can't speak on their behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed the show this week, and as by all means, I want to invite you back for more of City Week, and I also want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas.